All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible force that makes modern commerce tick. You know, that high-stakes game of getting something from a factory, maybe halfway across the world, and landing it right on your doorstep. Let's get into the real secrets of business logistics. I mean, just think about the last thing you ordered online. You click buy, and like clockwork, a few days later, a box just shows up. It feels seamless, right? Almost like a little bit of magic. But how does a company actually pull that off? Not just once, but day after day for millions of people? Well, the answer isn't magic. It's logistics. This is the engine of our entire economy, really, and it's a field that has its roots in military science, organizing the movement of troops and supplies. But now it's the secret weapon of the world's most successful companies. So what is it exactly? Well, at its heart, logistics is all about getting the right item to the right place at the right time and in the right condition. It's the whole process, planning, doing, and controlling how things are bought, stored, and moved to where they need to go. And it is a huge deal for the bottom line. Get this, on average, a company spends about 10.5% of its revenue on logistics. That is a massive expense, second only to the cost of the actual products themselves. So getting this right can save millions. And getting it wrong, it could literally sink a business. So how do companies tame this beast? Well, it turns out that a winning logistics strategy really comes down to making 3 critical, interconnected decisions. A good way to think about this is as a planning triangle. Each point on the triangle affects the other 2, and finding that perfect balance between them, that's the core challenge for any logistics manager. Okay, so first up is location. Are you going to have a few huge centralized warehouses or a whole bunch of smaller, local ones? Second is inventory. How much stuff should you keep in stock? Too much, and you're tying up a ton of cash. Too little, and you risk running out. And third, transportation. Do you use slower, cheaper options like ships and trains, or faster, more expensive ones like planes and trucks? You see, every single choice is a trade-off. But why go through all this complexity? Because at the end of the day, logistics isn't just about moving boxes around. It's about creating value for the customer. Let's dig into that. Just think about it for a second. A company can have the absolute best product in the world, but if you can't get it when you want it and where you want it, it's basically worthless to you. Logistics creates what's called time and place value. It's the thing that makes a product useful by actually making it available. And right here, this is the central conflict in all of logistics. On one side, you want to blow your customers away with things like next-day shipping and having everything in stock, always. But on the other side, you've got to keep your costs under control. Every decision is this constant tug of war between amazing service and, staying profitable. And it's a pretty direct relationship. If you offer a basic no-frills service level, your logistics costs stay low. But the moment you decide to offer a premium, super fast service, your costs for things like transportation and warehousing are going to skyrocket. So that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? How do you find that perfect balance? How do you give people an incredible customer experience without completely breaking the bank? Well, luckily, businesses have come up with some incredibly smart strategies to do just that. So let's look at 2 of the most powerful secrets, if you will, that companies use to thread that needle and make their logistics operations shockingly efficient. The first one is a philosophy that was pioneered by Toyota called just-in-time, or JIT. Now, instead of piling up materials in a giant warehouse, the whole point of JIT is to have them show up at the precise moment they're needed. When it works, it's like this perfectly choreographed dance that just erases the massive cost of holding inventory. The risk, of course, is that any single little problem, a storm, a traffic jam, can bring the entire system to a grinding halt. All right, the second secret is a really powerful idea called the 80-20 principle. You might have heard of it. It basically suggests that in most things, 80% of your results come from just 20% of your effort. And this is so true when it comes to inventory. For most companies, something like 80% of their sales come from only 20% of their products. These are your best sellers, your superstars, and the other 80% of your products, they only bring in about 20% of the revenue. Just knowing this is a total game changer for logistics. So this leads to a technique called ABC analysis. Your A items, that critical top 20%, get the royal treatment. You watch them like a hawk to make sure you never, ever run out. But the C items, the slow movers at the bottom, you manage those with much simpler, maybe even automated systems. It's all about focusing your energy where it actually counts the most. So we've talked about decisions and trade-offs and a couple of secrets. But for our last section, let's zoom all the way out and see how logistics fits into an even bigger picture. Because as important as all this is, logistics is actually just one critical piece of a much larger, way more complex network. And that puzzle is the supply chain. This includes every single step, from sourcing the raw materials, to manufacturing, to marketing, and yes, the logistics that moves it all around. You could say logistics is the circulatory system, but the supply chain, that's the entire body. Which brings us to this final question. Do you see your logistics as just a cost you have to minimize? Or is it a strategic weapon? The smartest companies out there, they already know the answer. When you master the flow of goods and information, you don't just deliver products, you deliver a superior customer experience. And in today's world, that is the ultimate competitive